God created vegetation, animals, and man as fully grown, fully mature entities with seeds within themselves. For plants and trees to reproduce, they must produce a seed and have the seed dispersed. For example, acorns do not do all that well when they germinate and sprout beneath the mother tree because there's not enough sunlight. An interesting part of creation is that within it are some systems that God uses to sustain his work. These systems are used in seed dispersal so that seeds are scattered to new and better growing conditions. The systems God created and uses for seed dispersal are the wind currents, the waterways, and even the systems within animal life. Birds eat seeds, digest parts of them, and then deposit pre-fertilized seeds all over the countryside. In Genesis 1:12, we are introduced to an important phrase and a word that will be mentioned 4 more times in the creation account. That word is kind. And the phrase is of the same kind, with the most important word being kind. The Hebrew word for kind is O-I-N, pronounced mean. The Bible does not mention species. It only deals with kinds. Groups of living organisms belong in the same created kind if they have descended from the same ancestral gene pool. This does not preclude new species because this represents a partitioning of the gene pool. Information is lost or conserved, not gained. A new species could arise when a population is isolated and inbreeding occurs. By this definition, a new species is not a new kind, but a further partitioning of an existing kind. We will see as we move forward that plants can only reproduce plants that are of the same kind. A green bean plant cannot produce a coconut tree. Animals can only reproduce after their own kind. A tiger cannot produce a sheep. They are different kinds. This limitation of only being able to reproduce after its kind precludes any possibility of evolution. Implanted in each created organism was a seed programmed to enable the continuing replication of that same organism. The modern understanding of the extreme complexities of the so-called DNA molecule and the genetic code contained in it has reinforced the biblical teaching of the stability of kinds. Each type of organism has its own unique structure of the DNA and can only specify the reproduction of that same kind. There is a tremendous amount of variational potential within each kind, facilitating the generation of distinct individuals and even many varieties within the kind, but nevertheless precluding the evolution of new kinds. A great deal of horizontal variation is easily possible, but no vertical changes. So at this point, we can make these big statements about what God has done thus far. On day 3, God caused a dry land to appear when he created vegetation, plants, and trees. And within these animate entities, he placed the ability to reproduce. Within the reproduction properties of his creation, just plants and trees at this point, he placed structure and limits. They could only reproduce of the same kind to allow for a continuous and orderly sustainment of the entities. He did not allow anything, plants, trees, animals, or men, to reproduce a population of freaks via cross-reproduction like one might see in a Hollywood film. Genesis 1:13, and evening passed and the morning came, marking the 3rd day. This is mentioned 6 times in Genesis chapter 1 and is more than just a poetic way of changing from one scene of creation to the next. God was revealing and reinforcing that he created all there is in 6 solar days. That is the plain reading of the text. On day 1, God added light, and so separated darkness from the light. On day 2, God created a space for life in the midst of the waters by separating the waters into waters below and waters above. On day 3, God separated the waters from the dry land and created vegetation, plants, and trees. Genesis 1:14, then God said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark seasons, days, and years. Let these lights in the sky shine down on the earth. And that is what happened. God made two great lights, the larger one to govern the day, the smaller one to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set these lights in the sky to light the earth, to govern the day and night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening passed and morning came, marking the fourth day. Points to ponder. An interesting part of creation is that within it are some systems that God uses to sustain his work. The Bible does not mention species. It only deals with kinds. The living things God created could only reproduce of the same kind to allow for a continuous and orderly sustainment of the entities. This class, and indeed the entire school, is dedicated to helping others see that God is bigger than we think and better than we know. To get to the next video, make a note of the class number for this recording, then search for the next one. Here is a sample. If this video is number L01.1, then the next one is L01.2. And remember to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow on Rumble.